Okay, in this video, what we're going to do is learn to program a very simple rectangle game in Pygame. And the final output is going to look something like this. We'll have a little square and we'll be able to move it left, right, up, and down. Okay, let's get started with Pygame. Before we get started, you need to install Pygame, and you're going to see on my computer I already have installed it, and you can tell if you've installed it because we could type the following two lines. We could import Pygame, and then we go pygame.init, and let's just run this program. Of course, we have to save it first, and if it, I'll just call it demo. And if it runs, you won't see anything, but you will see a hello from the Pygame community. It ran and then it quitted. If there was an error, you would say that there is no module called Pygame installed. Okay, so now that we've got that, what we need to do is come up with a screen. So in GameMaker, I typically make the screen size 640 by 480. So I'm going to make a variable called screen, and I'm going to say pygame.display.setMode, and I'm going to give it the dimensions of 640 and 480. And so I put 640, 480, and if I run it, the game would flash up and it would run. It would have a screen that is 640 by 480. Next, I want to make a player. So, to make a player, I'm going to make a player using Pygame by using a Pygame rectangle. And so I type in pygame.rect for rectangle, and then inside the rectangle I give the dimensions. 300 and 250 is the X and Y position where it's going to be placed, and it's going to be a 50 by 50 rectangle. Okay, now next I want to make the game display. So I'm going to create a variable called game on, and I'm going to set it to true. If I was to run the program, it would just run, flash, and stop like you saw before. So what I want to do is make an endless loop where if I press the close button, that will close it. But other than that, it'll just display a blank screen. So what I'm going to do is make a while loop. And I could say while true, but I want the true to become false somehow. So I'm going to say while game on. And so while the game is on, which is true, it's going to keep doing stuff. And what do I want to do? Well, the other day I demonstrated something called event. And there's different events in Pygame. And one of the events is pressing the quit button. So I say for event in pygame.event.get, and what I can do is look and see if the mouse hit the quit button, and that would be if event.type is equal to pygame.quit, and if that is true, I'm going to say the game on is now not on. It would be false. And so the loop would end, and I can then go pygame.quit as now if I run it, you'll see it's going to run until I press the quit button. And you'll see it's running, and it will stop when I hit the quit button. So the quit button would be the X right here, and so it'll stop when I hit the X. Okay. Next, what I want to do is I want to make the game draw the player's rectangle that we already made. We never saw it. So what I want to do is I want to draw that rectangle. So let's put drawing the rectangle. So I'm just going to put here at the very beginning, I'm going to say Pygame.draw. And what are we going to draw? We're going to draw a rectangle. Where? We're going to draw it on the screen. The screen is the 640 by 480 display that I made. What color? The colors are in what we call RGB. The first number is red, the second number is green, the second number is blue. Each of those numbers would be up to 255. So 0 would be dark, and 255 would be full red. So if I put 255, I will have a red with 0 green and 0 blue. I would have a pure red rectangle. And then what am I going to draw in the rectangle? I'm going to draw the player. And the player is a Pygame rectangle with the dimensions that I listed at the top there. So let's run this one and see what happens. And you'll see it doesn't look like anything happened. Okay, so we have to do something else as well. We also have to update the display. So what I'm going to do at the very bottom here is at the end of my while loop, while it's looking for events to happen, I want to update the display. So I'm going to say Pygame.display.update. And it's going to run very fast, and you'll see it now is continually drawing a red square. Perfect. Let's make the square move around the screen. Well, how do we get movement to happen? So let's create some code to get input from the keyboard. To do that, what I'm going to do is create a variable called key. And key is going to be Pygame key, and I'm going to use a method called getPressed. And this method is going to check the keyboard to see what key is pressed. And I'm going to say if the key is the Pygame key, so pygame.k, and then I'm going to say underscore, and I can get the letters on my keyboard. So if I want to use WASD, let's say A is going to be left, so I'll get the key for A. So that's how I would get key for A. And I would say, okay, if that is true, what are we going to do? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take the player and we're going to use a method called move. And so you'll see it recognizes Pygame. So in my version of idle here, it lists the move functions, move methods, and move.ip is one of them. And we just tell what x and y coordinates. And so I'm going to say -1 from where we were in x. That would be left because A is the left key and 0 is the right. Now I'm going to do the same thing for a right, which would be the D key, and you can probably guess what I'm going to do. It's not going to be an if, it'll be an elif because I didn't press the A, I pressed a different key. So I say if the key is the Pygame D key, if that is true, I'm going to make it, instead of -1, I'm going to make it go right, which would be +1. Let's do the up and down. Up and down, again, very similar to what you see here. Up, I'm going to use an elif. The up key would be the letter W, and up would not be X being 1. Up would be the Y being -1, because remember, 0 is the top and 480 is the bottom. 0 is the left, and 640 is the right. Great, last thing, and we're just about done making our very first game here, is the other LIF I would do is the S, and that would be moving it down. And so down would be 0 on the x-axis and 1 on the y. And so I'm just going to run this one, but there's a slight problem here. And the slight problem, oops, we don't need a colon there. It's not a question, it's a, let's just run that. And I don't know why I indented those. I'll just dedent those. Okay, so I'm just going to run it, and you'll see the rectangle is going to move across the screen, but you'll notice what it does is it is like a drawing pen. It's going to keep drawing. And so I want to erase what was on the screen before. And to do that, it's really going to be very simple. All I need to do is inside my game loop, I'm just going to say, okay, while the game is on, let's keep filling the screen with an RGB color. And so again, because it's tuple, there's double sets of brackets. The color is going to be, let's say, black, 0, 0, and 0. So it's going to constantly fill the screen with 0, 0, 0. It will draw and update once every cycle, and then when I move it, it'll draw the new one without drawing over top. And here we go, and I think we've finished our first game. And so you can see I've got the game here, and if I move to the left, it moves to the left. If I move up, it moves to the up. If I move down, and I have a little square that is moving all around the room. And so that is our first example game in Pygame, a very simple set of codes. Yeah, there you go.